Okay, welcome back. Today we have something a little bit special for you. You're going to get some insight into our laser coaching sessions where Kate and I coach students personally. Now, of course, our CCA students always have access to our coaching calls twice a month, and then, of course, our fabulous Facebook group as well. But these are special calls where we really get to dig into their specific questions in that moment. They're only 10 minutes, but boy, do we pack a lot of coaching and information in there. The topics are going to run the gamut. So no matter what you are interested in as a copywriter, even though you're not in the hot seat, I guarantee that you're going to hear something useful and interesting. Also, just a heads up that in a couple of the recordings, students mention Pitchapalooza and Right Starts, which are a couple of our student-only events. They're free for our students, and as with everything we do, they're designed to get people taking action and seeing success. So when you hear that reference, just know that that's what they are. So without further ado, let's dig into our laser coaching sessions.
Hello.
Hi there.
So I wanted to give you a bit of background to give you some context to my question, if that's okay. So I left school and I went straight to university. And then after that, I went straight into a job as an occupational therapist, and I work in UK National Health Service. So I was taught to think in a really, really specific way, not only in structure, but also in terms of language, and specifically kind of medical language, as you'd expect. Mm-hmm. So I've been working in health now for 20 years. And obviously that thinking and that structure of language has been totally consolidated and part of who I am. And one of the blessings of the CCA for me is that it's taught me to open up the way that I was thinking entirely and totally forced me in a new direction. But it hasn't been without struggle, as I bet you can imagine. And I still sometimes find that really difficult now. So my question is, what would you suggest to people coming from a long-term sort of career in the same way that I have with similar issues to help them expand their creative thinking within a whole entire new industry that you guys have got so much experience in?
Such a good question. Yes. I have two initial thoughts, and I'm definitely curious to hear what Kate has to say as well. Okay. First of all, I would spend a little time, not even thinking about clients, but just noticing the way that you talk and that you think. And I realized brand voice, you set brand voice aside for a moment, because the way that we talk and we think tends to be short sentences, tends to start sentences with "and," tends to just say a phrase that doesn't actually make much sense, but you know what I'm saying when you write it. But when we talk and when we write, when I say write, I mean write to friends, or when we think, it tends to be much more fluid, right? It tends to be less rigid. And so you are likely naturally doing this in various areas of your life. Like, do you have kids by any chance?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the way yes, exactly. So the way you talk to your kids is very different from academic writing, right? Yeah, so as you talk to them, notice the way that you talk to them, and notice the things that you emphasize, and notice that, and think to yourself, right, how would that actually look if I wrote it out? That would just be a short phrase, or that might be an M dash. That might be something like that. I think that's the first thing. You are likely naturally doing it in all kinds of areas of your life. So the good news is that you have it there. Now you just need to just tap into it, let that bleed over a little bit, and I know in your previous life was like, do not let that bleed over. Now you can let it bleed over, encourage it to bleed over, and have a little bit more fun with writing. And then I think really the other thing I would just suggest is to when you're out and about and noticing copy, noticing the things you see around you, look for the voices that have that are more less rigid, that break the rules and that kind of thing, and notice that, and really take a few moments and analyze them. They I don't know why starting a sentence with and is just on the top of my head, but they start the sentence with and, but it really works well here because it emphasizes X, Y, Z. So you get kind of both sides, right? You get the creative side of I'm naturally doing this, let me say, but when you are looking at copy out in the world and you're kind of analyzing how other people are breaking the rules, you get that strategic part of your mind too. And as you get both of those engaged, it's going to start to become a little bit more natural for you to break out of those rules. Yeah.
Similar to what Nikki was saying about noticing when you talk, I think as you go to sit down and write copy, especially when you're first starting out, potentially use a voice memo. Like don't sit down at the computer, don't start typing and say, let me speak some thoughts into a voice memo and see if that works. It might not work for you, but it might just be a different way to tap into those initial ideas and to get yourself going in the right direction versus, sometimes I feel like we sit down at the computer and it's very, I have to work. It must be the perfect headline. It has to be, and we go to write versus this being a little more free and giving yourself the time, not putting constraints, especially on time and how long it's going to take you. And I have to be fast and I have to do this. And no, it's going to take you how long it takes you. So giving yourself this, lowering the pressure on feeling like I have to knock something out of the park right away and knowing that that's just part of the process. And so having a messy, and I know for me I think a lot of our group, we call ourselves recovering perfectionists. It's hard to have a messy, chaotic first draft, but I think, or not even first draft, but brainstorm session. So giving yourself that space to do that. So voice memo might help, and then generally this could be, depending on who you are, this might vary, but just again, looking for ways to lower the pressure on yourself. So whether it's, I need to get up and go for a walk and you're going to continue to think about it and maybe ideas come up. So again, if you don't want to bring your phone, bring a notepad, bring something with you. So if something comes to mind, you can, jot it. Or frankly, for me, sometimes it's a glass of wine to say, all right, my workday's over. I'm not going to try to deliver this, obviously, but I'm going to have a glass of wine and I'm going to start writing, and it's going to be a very, maybe not even first draft, but it's going to be a fun brainstorm session. I'm going to make it fun. So I don't recommend drinking with all your copywriting projects. That could be problematic. I fully realize I'm not condoning this.
Don't drink on stuff you're going to send to clients. Just pro tip.
Full stop. So that's good.
There you go. Perfect. Perfect. You have saved yourself a lot of potential trouble. Yes. But to Kate's point, it's things that kind of relax you. If you're a bubble bath kind of person, or if you're, like Kate was saying, if you're a sit in nature kind of person, just giving yourself that opportunity to kind of let your mind unwind. Yeah.
I think
it's such a different thing to have to do, isn't it? Because you're channeled, you are taught you in this way, you have to do it this way. And so even when you guys are saying words like fun and unwind and creative and relax, it's such a foreign concept, isn't it? But it is just about learning that actually, yes, it's okay. You can do that. It's fine. And actually in doing that, your imagination runs freer.
Exactly. In school, they teach us all the rules.
Yeah.
And they tell you eventually you might be able to break the rules, but then they never actually tell you how to break the rules or where to break the rules or any kind of that. So this is your opportunity to really embrace it, to play with the language and have fun with it. Because the good news is that yes, what we do is very important and it's very useful. But you don't have to, as you are working, you don't have to take it too seriously. You can figure out, okay, how can I make this even more enjoyable? Like Kate and I will always say, sometimes when we're in our heads too much, we'll go find a different place to work, a hotel lobby somewhere, because they usually have Wi-Fi and often
there yesterday. It was great.
And exactly. But changing the environment can help a little bit. And even if you, and to Kate's point, if you usually, type your work, writing it out longhand. Couldn't think of the word longhand for a second. Writing it out longhand, just challenging yourself to, not even challenging is too hard a word, but just giving yourself the opportunity to do things a little bit differently.
And to find what works for you, for sure. Just experimenting, and that might change too as time goes on, that what works for them. And then you might have to experiment some more of, okay, like this worked for a while, but I feel like I'm hitting my head against a wall again. What else can I do to shake things up and regain that fun element?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a big part of also what you've said but haven't said is about giving yourself permission.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yes.
100%.
Yeah. The word was on the tip of my tongue earlier. We were just saying that
just
earlier.
about, allowing yourself the permission to be able to do things in an entirely different way, and not just in the writing, but in the practical elements of all of the things that go with that, just that whole change of professional, I suppose, environment and professional background as well. So it's so exciting. Thank you so much.
No one's in your office besides, I mean, typically, sometimes my husband's in my office, but like, no boss is in your office watching, what you're doing and saying, well, dancing around your office is not productive. Well, yeah, it might be sometimes. Like, you just need to get up and shake it out. So
yeah, with you on that one, totally.
Yes, right. Turn on some music.
Like, you are the boss. Like, that's the cool thing. Obviously, the challenging thing is that you are the boss and no one else is telling you to get down to work. But it's nice that you have the ability to tell yourself what you can make up the rules of, like, yeah, okay, I have to sit down to work and get this done. But how I do that is completely up to me. And there's no, like, societal constraints on, in an office, like, yeah, okay, I'm going to be respectful of the other cubicles or whatnot. Like, you can really go for it.
Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Permission now just to go and
you have full permission.
Full permission.
So thank
May
you.
I recommend, if you use Spotify, I know Spotify also has a free version, their Workday Lounge playlist. Shout out to Spotify. They're not sponsoring us, but their Workday Lounge playlist is delightful. I can't write to lyrics. And so this doesn't have lyrics, but it's kind of upbeat and a little bit like I start grooving. Yeah.
I'll have a little try of that.
Try it. Let me know. Let me know if you like it. If you don't, I'm not offended. But yeah, tell me in the group if you end up listening to it and you like it. Genuinely,
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your advice, and thank you so much for what you guys do. Is absolutely fantastic. You give loads of people opportunity, and it's so exciting to be a part of it. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
That's very nice.
Thank
you.
Keep us posted.
Yes,
will do.
Not just on the playlist, but on everything.
You might get a few random videos in there of dancing.
I would love it.
That would be inspiring for everyone to see. I feel like, because we all forget.
Trend.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Felicity.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.